the ancient warning Supreme Chancellor Thaxon Krell, had heard the stories countless times throughout his 3 centuries of life. Every Krillian child knew the tales of the mysterious humans who had supposedly ruled the galaxy before vanishing into the void 500 years ago. Like most rational beings, Krell dismissed these stories as nothing more than ancient mythology designed to inspire wonder in young minds. The Krellian Empire now controlled over 2,000 star systems, their crystalline ships and energy-based weapons making them the dominant force in the known galaxy. Their biomechanical technology had evolved to near perfection, allowing them to manipulate matter at the atomic level and project their consciousness across vast distances. They were the pinnacle of galactic civilization, or so they believed. That belief shattered on a quiet morning in the Imperial capital when Emergency Alert Coordinator Vex burst into the council chambers, his normally composed demeanor replaced by visible panic. The scaled being's chromatophore patches flickered rapidly between deep purple and electric blue, indicating severe distress. Supreme Chancellor, Vex gasped, his breathing apparatus working overtime. "We have a galaxy-wide emergency. Every monitoring station across all sectors is reporting the same impossible phenomenon." Krell set down his data tablet and fixed his large, compound eyes on the coordinator. In his 3 centuries of leadership, he had never seen Vex lose his composure. Wars, natural disasters, even the collapse of entire star systems had never fazed the veteran official. "Explain," Krell commanded, his voice carrying the authority that had kept the Empire stable for decades. "Ancient technology is activating across the galaxy," Vex reported, his words coming in rapid bursts. "Structures we never knew existed are powering up simultaneously. They're broadcasting on frequencies we can barely detect, using energy signatures that don't match any known physics." The council chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Chief Science Advisor Nyx, her tentacles writhing with curiosity, leaned forward from her position at the semicircular table. "That's impossible. Our deep space surveys have mapped every significant structure in the galaxy. There are no unknown installations of that magnitude." "That's what we thought too," Vex replied, activating the chamber's holographic display system. "But look at this." The air above the council table shimmered and resolved into a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Hundreds of points of light were pulsing in perfect synchronization, scattered across every major star system. The pattern was too organized to be natural, too widespread to be coincidental. "These installations are built into the very fabric of space-time itself," Vex continued. "They've been dormant for so long that they've become invisible to our senses. But now they're awakening, and they're all broadcasting the same message." Defense Minister Kor, a massive being whose species had evolved from predatory hunters, slammed his clawed hand on the table. "A message? From whom? And why now?" "That's the impossible part," Vex said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The message is in a language our computers identify as ancient human script. But humans were just legends. Everyone knows they never actually existed." The chamber fell silent. The only sound was the gentle hum of the life support systems and the soft clicking of Nyx's tentacles as she processed this information. Krell felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. "Play the message," he ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing complex waveforms and energy patterns. Then, impossibly, words began to form in the air, glowing with an otherworldly light. The translation systems worked frantically to convert the ancient script into modern Krillian. "To the children of the galaxy," the message began, "we who came before leave this warning. We have journeyed beyond the veil of space and time to confront a darkness that threatens all existence. The barriers between dimensions grow weak. The devourers stir in their prison between realities. When these beacons activate, know that the ancient enemy approaches. We return not as conquerors, but as guardians. Trust in the light. Trust in unity. Trust in the impossible. The message repeated 3 times before the transmission ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. Krell felt his worldview crumbling. If humans had been real, if they had possessed technology capable of hiding installations throughout the galaxy for centuries, then everything the Krillian Empire believed about their own supremacy was wrong. Sir, Communications Director Zara spoke up, her voice trembling. We're receiving reports from across the Empire. The message has been heard by every species in the galaxy. Some are panicking, others are celebrating. But there's something else. She paused, consulting her datapad with shaking hands. Long-range sensors are detecting massive gravitational anomalies at the edge of the galaxy. Something enormous is approaching from intergalactic space. Before anyone could respond, the chamber's emergency lighting activated, bathing everything in a pulsing red glow. Chief Military Advisor General Throke's voice boomed through the communication system. Supreme Chancellor, we have a code black. Situation: unknown hostiles have breached the outer rim. They're not using any form of technology we understand. Our ships are being destroyed without the attackers firing a single weapon. Krell's mind raced. The ancient human warning had mentioned something called devourers and darkness from between dimensions. Could these attackers be connected to the message? Visual confirmation, he demanded. That's the problem, sir, General Throck replied. They're not entirely in our dimension. Our sensors show massive distortions in space-time, areas where reality itself seems to be unraveling. Whatever these things are, they exist partially outside normal space. The implications hit Krell like a physical blow. The Krillian Empire's most advanced weapons were designed to fight conventional enemies in normal space. If these attackers existed between dimensions, their military might be useless. Casualties? He asked, though he dreaded the answer. 17 colonies have gone dark in the past hour, Throck reported. Not destroyed, just ... gone, like they never existed. The dimensional distortions are spreading inward toward the core systems. Nyx's tentacles had gone completely still, a sign of deep concentration. Supreme Chancellor, she said slowly, I believe the human message was accurate. These devourers appear to be entities that exist between dimensions, feeding on the fabric of reality itself. Our technology can't even properly detect them, let alone fight them. Then how do we stop them? Krell demanded. We don't, Nyx replied grimly. But maybe something else can. As if summoned by her words, every display screen in the chamber suddenly blazed with light. A new signal was being broadcast on the same frequencies as the ancient human message. But this one was coming from the opposite direction, from beyond the galaxy's edge, where the human message had originated. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Stellar Reconnaissance Fleet, a voice said, speaking in perfect modern Krillian. We have received the activation signal from our monitoring stations. The dimensional breach protocol is in effect. All galactic species are advised to maintain safe distance from the outer rim. We are coming home. The transmission ended, leaving the council in another moment of stunned silence. Then Vex spoke up, his voice filled with awe. Supreme Chancellor, you need to see this. The holographic display showed the edge of the galaxy, where massive energy signatures were appearing from apparently empty space. Ships were materializing from some form of interdimensional travel, but these weren't like any vessels in the known databases. They seemed to be made of crystallized light itself, their hulls shifting between solid matter and pure energy. How many? Krell whispered. Impossible to count accurately, Vex replied. The energy readings are off our scales, but preliminary estimates suggest over 10,000 vessels, and they're still arriving. Chief Science Advisor Nix was studying the readings with obvious fascination. Supreme Chancellor, these ships are operating on principles that shouldn't be possible. They're existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously, drawing power from the quantum foam itself. This is technology that transcends our understanding of physics. Can they stop the Devourers? Defense Minister Kaur asked. Unknown, Nix admitted. But they're the only force we've encountered that operates on the same dimensional level as the attackers. Krell made the hardest decision of his long career. The Krillian Empire had ruled the galaxy through strength and independence. They had never asked for help, never admitted weakness. But facing extinction, pride was a luxury they couldn't afford. Open a channel to the human fleet, he ordered. It's time to find out if legends can save us all. As the communication systems worked to establish contact with beings who shouldn't exist, piloting ships that defied known science, Supreme Chancellor Thaxon Krell realized that everything he thought he knew about the universe was about to change. Forever, the age of Krillian dominance was ending. The age of legends was beginning. Asterisk. The return of Legends Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the UES Prometheus, watching the tactical display with eyes that had seen the birth and death of galaxies. To any observer, she appeared to be a normal human woman in her 30s, but appearances could be deceiving when one had evolved beyond the limitations of purely physical existence. Admiral, reported Commander Martinez, his form flickering slightly as he maintained partial existence in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Krillian Empire has requested communication. They seem to be the current dominant power in this galaxy. Sarah nodded, her expression mixing nostalgia with determination. 500 years ago, when humanity had first detected the weakening barriers between dimensions, they had made the hardest choice in their species' history. They had abandoned their physical forms and journeyed into the spaces between realities to confront the Devourers at their source. Open the channel, she ordered. Let's see how our galaxy has grown in our absence. The holographic display shimmered and resolved into the image of a tall, crystalline being with compound eyes that reflected intelligence and desperation in equal measure. This was clearly someone accustomed to command, but the stress of the current situation showed in every line of his posture. I am Supreme Chancellor Thaxon Krell of the Krillian Empire, the being said, his voice carrying across the interdimensional communication link. Are you truly human? The legends claimed your species vanished centuries ago. We didn't vanish, Chancellor, Sarah replied, her voice warm despite the gravity of the situation. We evolved. When our scientists discovered that reality itself was under threat from entities that existed between dimensions, we made the choice to transcend our physical limitations and meet that threat on its own terms. The Devourers, Krell said, understanding dawning in his compound eyes. Your ancient message warned of them. They've broken through at the galaxy's edge. Our most advanced weapons are useless against them. Sarah's expression grew grave. The Devourers are older than this galaxy, Chancellor. They exist in the spaces between realities, feeding on the fundamental forces that hold existence together. They've already consumed 17 parallel universes. This galaxy is their next target. Then we're doomed, Krell said, his voice heavy with defeat. If beings that transcend physical reality cannot be stopped by conventional means, what hope? Do we have you have us? Sarah said simply. Humanity didn't abandon this galaxy, Chancellor. We went ahead to prepare for this moment. Every human who made the transition knew they might never return to the reality they knew. But we also knew that if we didn't act, everything we loved would be consumed. The tactical display showed the advancing line of dimensional distortions, where the Devourers were tearing through the fabric of space-time. Entire star systems were simply ceasing to exist as the creatures fed on the quantum foundations of reality itself. What do you need from us? Krell asked, and Sarah heard the note of hope creeping into his voice. Unity, Sarah replied. The Devourers feed on division, on the spaces between separate entities. But when consciousness unite, when different species work together with perfect coordination, they create something the Devourers cannot consume. A Gestalt consciousness, breathed Chief Science Advisor Nix, who had been listening from beside Krell. You're talking about temporarily merging the consciousness of multiple species into a single entity. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. But it requires complete trust, complete surrender of individual identity for the duration of the merge. It's the only way to create a unified field of consciousness that can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Krell was quiet for a long moment, processing the implications. You're asking us to trust you with our very essence, our individual existence. After 500 years of believing you were myths, I'm asking you to trust that the species that chose to sacrifice everything to protect a galaxy they would never see again is worthy of that trust. Sarah replied gently. Before Krell could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the Prometheus. Commander Martinez turned from his station, his expression grim. Admiral, the Devourers have accelerated their advance. They'll reach the core systems in less than 6 hours. Sarah made her decision. All vessels, prepare for full dimensional manifestation. We're going to show our galactic neighbors exactly what human determination looks like when the universe itself is at stake. Throughout the human fleet, ships that had existed as probability waves began to solidify into physical reality. The crystalline hulls blazed with energy drawn from the quantum foam itself. Weapons that could manipulate the fundamental forces of creation came online, and 10,000 vessels prepared for a battle that would determine the fate of all existence. Chancellor, Sarah said, her image flickering as she began to transition between dimensions. Send word to every species in the galaxy. Tell them that humanity offers the confluence, a temporary unity of consciousness that will give us the power to fight beings that exist beyond normal space and time. But they must choose quickly. The Devourers wait for no one. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Across the galaxy, species that had been enemies for millennia put aside their differences. The Krillians, with their mastery of consciousness projection, served as the coordinators. The insectoid Vex contributed their collective intelligence networks. The energy beings of the Stellar Collective offered their ability to exist as pure thought. As the Devourers reached the outer edges of inhabited space, something unprecedented began to happen. Millions of beings from dozens of species began to link their consciousness together. Guided by human technology that existed beyond the normal boundaries of space and time, Sarah felt the moment when the confluence achieved critical mass suddenly. She was not just Admiral Sarah Chen, but part of a vast, unified consciousness that spanned the galaxy. She could feel the determination of Chancellor Krell, the scientific curiosity of Nyx, the protective instincts of every parent who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond. The unified consciousness reached out with power that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Where the Devourers had been unraveling the fabric of reality, the confluence began to weave it back together. The battle was not fought with weapons or ships, but with the combined will of every sapient being in the galaxy united in a single purpose. The Devourers, creatures that had consumed entire universes, found themselves facing something they had never encountered before, a consciousness so unified, so determined, so filled with love for existence itself, that they could not find the cracks and divisions they needed to feed upon. For the first time in eons, the Devourers retreated, as the unified consciousness gently separated back into individual minds. Sarah found herself back in her command center, but she was no longer alone. The bridge was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all of them changed by the experience of perfect unity. "It's over," she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the galaxy through the communication networks. "The have withdrawn beyond the galactic barrier. The barriers between dimensions have been reinforced. We are safe." Chancellor Krell, his form now slightly translucent as he maintained a partial connection to the dimensional networks, approached Sarah, with something that might have been a smile on his crystalline features. "Admiral Chen," he said formally, on behalf of the Galactic Council, "I offer humanity full membership and our deepest gratitude. The legends spoke of your species' courage and determination, but they never mentioned your capacity for bringing out the best in others." Sarah smiled, feeling the weight of 500 years of exile lifting from her shoulders. "Chancellor, we never left. We just took a different path to get here. And now, together, we can explore paths that none of us ever imagined possible." As the human fleet settled into orbit around the various homeworlds of their new allies, Sarah looked out at the stars and felt something she hadn't experienced in centuries: hope for the future. The galaxy had grown beyond their wildest dreams in their absence, and now, together, they would explore possibilities that transcended the boundaries of reality itself. The age of legends had ended. The age of unity had begun, and in the spaces between the stars, where consciousness and matter met and danced together, humanity and their galactic family began to write the next chapter of existence itself. Asterisk.